everybody. Welcome into the Early Edge, your daily sports betting brand of record. We are powered, as always, by the almighty SportsLine, the best value in all sports betting, and it's not even close. Why don't I have a little extra energy today? Well, first of all, there are 3 NFL playoff games for one, but when I get to take the day off on Saturdays and I sit back and I watch the crew go 17-6, absolutely destroying it yesterday, and AB 4-1, the Maestro 2-0. My goodness, look at that. And EC sweeping the board, finding those here or there overs, apparently, as well. Now, on a Sunday, if there are 3 playoff games and we've got to have our absolute very best, I go through the 3 big dogs. I mean, the 3 OGs. But before we bring them in, I got to tell you, it's a busy day at the brand. A busy, busy day. Now, we do not have a noon show today. There will be no noon show. We're going to dive into the games a lot this morning, a little extended version of the show. But then tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, we will count down to the Ravens and the Bengals. Who will be the starting quarterback? How will the Ravens attack it? What props can you play? What are the best bets? We'll tackle it all tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Then, of course, tomorrow, we have another live show at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time with the Cowboys and the Bucks. Will this be Tom Brady's last game ever? Last game in Tampa? We'll dive into that on Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Now, let's bring in the stars of the show because you know them, you love them, and we start with live from Nashville, Tennessee, the Penthouse Level. M Squared, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Coach Larry, RJ. Great to see you guys. As always, fired up for the NFL playoffs, a little college basketball, NBA, and, of course, final round of a golf tournament. It's a beautiful time. Let's go.
And they're asking in the chat, do you think Buckley will hang on today, Mikey?
I hope not. I have Taylor Montgomery sitting a little farther back, 35-1 that I would really like to cash. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no.
Well, he's never won before, so take that into account. Now, next, he is the man who runs our NFL here at SportsLine. And RJ White, they're already asking if Staley will be back after that travesty last night with the Chargers. Ladies and gentlemen, the stoic one, RJ White. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I mean, there was speculation he was coaching for his job anyway, and to lose in such spectacular fashion, you got to figure he's going to be gone. I'm sure the Chargers want to get in front of the Sean Payton interviews. He's scheduled to start interviewing Tuesday in Denver, so you want to signal that your job is open if you think that you're going to get him. Now, the only problem with them getting Sean Payton is that the Chargers ownership group, which is notoriously kind of known for not spending a lot of money, has to outbid the new group in Denver, and Denver's probably going to give Sean Payton whatever he wants. So I think it's going to come down to who Sean Payton wants to play with, the Russell Wilson we saw in 2022 or Justin Herbert, who has his whole career ahead of him. And I think if he's smart, he takes the Chargers down.
And according to Brent in the chat, and again, just from Brent, he's already bought a house in Los Angeles. So we'll see if that has anything to do with it. Now, finally, you talk about fired up. You talk about a man who loves NFL more than anybody. Talking about the Maestro. Larry Hartstein, good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. Great day of playoff football. And what I can't get over is a guy at DraftKings put $1.4 million on the Chargers money line when they got up 27-0. It only would have paid $11,000. And how is he feeling today? I really just want to meet a guy that can do that, with no conscience and only pay out $11,000 and he loses $1.4 million. That is a confirmed loss.
Wow. A, why would you ever do that? B, why would you ever do that? All right. Now, we got a lot to get to, gentlemen. So if you don't mind, let's get started. Storylines that could affect the betting lines. And I got to say that we're starting today with good news and bad news. Overnight, we cashed a ticket courtesy of the hottest capper we have here at the Early Edge and SportsLine Buckets. However, Buckets suffered an injury, doing something that I haven't done since the 6th grade, and that is max out my bench press. So Buckets is now officially on the IR. The official diagnosis after going into the blue tent was that he has a neck strain, and he is currently questionable to return. Buckets. Maestro, in a related story, key injuries today in the NFL. If you don't mind, start us off.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about some real athletes that are in a serious question for this game for the Miami Dolphins. And we know Mostert's out. We know Tua's out. But the three offensive linemen who have a chance to play, because the starting guard Eichenberg is also out. We're talking about Teron Armstead, Brandon Shell, and Kendall Lamb, all questionable. And Shell did not practice all week. He's the starting right tackle, and Teron Armstead is the starting left tackle, and their pressure rate allowed goes up to 47% when Teron Armstead is not in the lineup. I mean, this is just setting up to be a massacre, and I feel bad for Skylar Thompson if he doesn't have any of his starting tackles available in Buffalo. And the other situation to watch tonight is the reports coming out that the Ravens are going to use two quarterbacks tonight. They did not elevate Brett Hundley, so Huntley looks good to go. Anthony Brown supposedly also going to play, as if that wrinkle is going to worry the Bengals. I'm not sure how that's really going to complicate the game plan for the Bengals, the feeling that, we might have to prepare for Anthony Brown. I think they'd be happy if Anthony Brown gets a few snaps.
I am so glad, because for about 4 days, Maestro, I've had this Bengals minus 6.5 like a blinking light in my account, because I played it on Tuesday during the mega preview. And I don't know if you're ever going to see that number again. Great storyline by you. Thank you very much. Now, speaking of the Ravens, and also speaking of the Giants, RJ, last week they did what Brandon Staley should have done, and that is sit a lot of his starters to wait for today. Talk to me.
Yeah, the Giants rested many of their key starters last week, just why that line ballooned up so high. They were still able to cover against the Eagles, but Daniel Jones didn't play. Saquon, Andrew Thomas, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, like all the key defensive linemen didn't play in that game. So they should be ready to go for this one. This line was 4.5 in Minnesota a few weeks ago. Now it's only at 3 and juice toward the Giants. Baltimore sat Huntley, also sat Mark Andrews, J.K. Dobbins, Marcus Peters last week. Just kind of decided that they didn't have to go in and win in Cincinnati last week, and then to try to improve their playoff situation when by resting players, they could just go in and win in Cincinnati this week. So they didn't show Cincinnati much on offense in that game. The quarterback threw a few interceptions early and it got out of hand. But that's what, like you said, the Chargers should have done. They didn't rest players in a meaningless game, lost Mike Williams. Bosa was banged up, and then they ran out of steam with a massive lead last night. I don't know if you can pin it on them, playing starters all out for them collapsing like they did in 27-point lead. But, I mean, it might have been a factor. So we'll see if the Giants and Ravens were smart to rest guys and if it comes into account here.
Okay, we'll watch that today. Again, 3 big games today. Now, let's get into our board today. We're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to do our best bets, and then we're going to dive into the 2 early games, the 1 o'clock and the 4:30. And again, tonight we'll break down the Sunday night game in a separate show. So let's get into it. And I would love to start, RJ, with you, because you're looking at several different games and several different picks. Start us off, please.
Yeah, I went 1 pick per game in the Dolphins game. I wasn't too comfortable going with the spread or the total, just with the situation. We could see any type of game there, but I did like going Mike Gesicki over 16.5 receiving yards at minus 130. Thompson has targeted Gesicki rather heavily the last 2 weeks. He was also a major part of the game plan in Thompson's 2 starts, including one earlier in the season. Had at least 6 targets and 40 yards in each of those games. He came on in relief in week 17, looked Gesicki's way 4 times on the final drive, hit him for a touchdown on that last play. So I think Gesicki's really caught Thompson's eye. Miami's likely playing from behind all day, likely not going to be able to throw downfield a ton with the offensive line injuries that Larry's talking about. And Buffalo's defense is definitely going to focus on taking away Waddle and Hill as much as possible. So I think Gesicki's going to get more, a healthy amount of targets in this game in that 6 to 8 range, and it should be pretty easy to top 16.5 receiving yards. Second game, I like the Giants +3. These teams just played to a near draw in week 16. Took Minnesota kicking a 61-yard field goal to win it. The Giants showed they can throw on that bad Minnesota pass defense in that game, even though they typically did not throw a ton earlier in the year. And their starters got a bye week, like we talked about, get healthy and rested. Minnesota didn't. They played hard for a little over a half, I believe, in that Chicago game until they were up big. Giants defense 5th on 3rd down, 5th in the red zone. They play situational football very well, and they're going to be rested on the defensive line. I think Minnesota has to settle for field goals instead of scoring a bunch of touchdowns. You throw in the coaching advantage with Brian Daboll there. I think this is a 1-score game, and I think the Giants come out on top. So I wouldn't even mind sprinkling Giants money line, but +3 is good value at this point. Then in the last game, I got Ravens +8.5. I did like the Bengals earlier in the week without knowing whether Huntley would play. He got in a full practice on Friday, more comfortable playing them now. I mean, they rested several key players last week, like I talked about. They only lost by 11 points in that game. They played a close, low-scoring game in Baltimore early in the season with Baltimore healthier and obviously trying. Now you have Lamar Jackson at quarterback there, so you take that with a grain of salt. But I think that if you mix in Anthony Brown, like they're planning to do the two quarterback thing, you can get a little bit more dangerous in the passing game. I think he had a great connection last week with guys like Isaiah Likely. And so that could come to fruition. Sammy Watkins, I think, made some plays there. So I think he can do things in the passing game. Huntley can help you out in the running games. J.K. Dobbins has a big game here. And the Ravens keep it close in a lower scoring game because the Bengals offensive line is a little bit banged up too. They're missing their starting right guard, starting right tackle. And that's a place that Baltimore can focus on defensively and exploit that weakness and keep this game in the realm of 17-10, 17-13.
Well, I like all three of those. And again, we will delve into both games coming up in just a couple of minutes, but love those three. All right, Maestro. I know this isn't how we normally do it, but we are separating things out just a little bit. What do you like today?
I like KJ Osborne on the Vikings, and I like him over his receiving prop in the mid-30s. When you look at the last 5 weeks, he's number 7 in the NFL with 388 receiving yards. You have Adam Thielen, who is not quite the same at age 32. You have Adoree Jackson, the top corner for the Giants, coming back. Expect him to be on Justin Jefferson a lot. Of course, Jefferson's going to get a ton. Hawkinson is going to get a ton. There is still room for KJ Osborne to go over 36.5. He's gone over 100 twice down the stretch. And I think we're just getting a little value because the one game he hasn't blown up in the last 5 was against these Giants. But with Adoree Jackson coming back, I think he'll look to KJ Osborne, 4 or 5 times, and we can get this in just a couple of plays.
There is no question about it. You had to feel pretty good last night when you saw Christian McCaffrey rip off that 66-yard run in the first quarter, huh?
It was a fun day. Let's keep it rolling, guys.
All right, let's keep it rolling. I'm going to go next, and I got one play from the NBA, and Mikey's going to give you the injury report in just a second, but I already checked with him, and I'm good with this game. The Sixers last night played in Utah. They scored 235 combined. They won by 1 point. The Sixers have turned into an over team. They're playing faster. James Harden realizes I can get a lot more open shots. Joel Embiid says I can get a lot of easy buckets if we play faster. And the Lakers haven't played since Thursday. Double overtime against the Mavs. When LeBron plays, boy, do they score a lot of points. I love this number. I thought it would open more like 239, 240. We'll get it at 235. I encourage you to get it in right now. Mikey, I need some NBA injury reports, and I also know that you're going to college basketball today as well. You're up.
Yes, let's hit the injury report first. We'll talk about rest and travel first. Blazers, Mavericks, they're playing a rematch. They're running it back from last night. This is the third game in 4 days and the second night of a back-to-back for both sides in this game. Luka Doncic, Tim Hardaway Jr., Christian Wood, all questionable. Dorian Finney-Smith, doubtful. Pretty good indication Luka's not playing in this game based on the current line of Portland -6, but certainly something to monitor this afternoon. For Detroit, Bojan Bogdanovic listed questionable. For the Rockets, they've got 3 guys listed doubtful: Jalen Green, Kevin Porter, Jayshawn Tate. It's going to be very interesting to see that team and what usage looks like with Green and Porter both potentially out of the lineup. For the Chicago Bulls, we've got DeMar DeRozan listed questionable. Has missed the last few games, could return today. For the Lakers game, on the Philadelphia side, Tobias Harris listed questionable. It is the third game in 4 days, second night of a back-to-back for the Sixers. Expect a little less defensive intensity. Kind of goes right in line with your pick there, Coach. Now for college basketball, I have one play that I'm sharing here. There are 3 total edges in the simulations that I share on SportsLine. You can find those from my Twitter account. I've tweeted the link multiple times there. We're going to go Xavier and Marquette over 163. I make this game closer to 169 in the simulations. These are 2 teams that love to play with a ton of pace. Xavier ranks as a top 15 team in pace. Marquette is not far behind them. Marquette is a team that has historically played with a ton of pace. But not only are they comfortable playing at pace, they are the top 5 offenses in terms of offensive efficiency, rating 4th and 5th. They struggle in terms of defensive efficiency relative to how good the team actually is. Neither team rates in the top 65 in terms of defensive rating. I love this spot overall. One of these teams here, Xavier, they are much better at converting second chance opportunities. I think that's going to help them put up a ton of points here. Marquette, they've scored 90 plus points in 2 of their last 3. Xavier's put up 80 in 4 consecutive games, playing against similar competition, but competition that doesn't play with the kind of pace that their opponent does here. Let's go over 163.
Man, I absolutely love this play. I've really enjoyed, Mikey, watching these two teams play this year because of how fast that they play. Great spot on a Sunday. And I apologize. Right now, we're having tech issues. I cannot get this thing to stop blinking. So if it annoys you, there's nothing I can do. I don't know what's going on. But I see Tom in the chat says another big day with the SportsLine Cappers. You're damn right. And we're going to extend the show because we have more than just the picks that we gave out right here on the show. We've got the entire crew weighing in today. So let's jump right in, gentlemen. After I do the recap screen, grab your paper, grab your pencil. Here is the best bets today. Take a look at all of it. I'm not going to read everything for those listening on Apple or Spotify. I apologize. We have about 30 picks on the screen right now from every single person that does NFL at the brand. So let's get into the first game today, guys. Dolphins and the Bills. Now, when it was announced that Tua was out, that Skylar Thompson was going to be the starting quarterback, this thing shot up to 13.5. It has stayed steady right there. Total 43.5. Now, as a brand, Uncle Dave is on Josh Allen under 33.5 pass attempts. He believes that he won't even need to go that high because this will be a blowout. That's what Dave said. Then Prop Stars is on Dawson Knox over 32.5 receiving yards. Then RJ, I'm coming to you. I know you have a best bet in this game. What do you like?
Yeah, I talked about the Gesicki play earlier. I think Skylar Thompson really is going to focus on throwing him the ball, and I think Buffalo's going to make it tough to throw to the receivers. Miami has played Buffalo tough twice, surprised them with the run game last time, so I would also look at some Jeff Wilson plays because I think they could have some success there, and they definitely want to shorten this game and not give Josh Allen too many possessions to beat them up and down the field. And Buffalo, I mean, there's a chance I'm not going to talk bad about my team. I think they're a great team, but they could be a little bit overrated coming out of last week because they did beat the Patriots by 12 or 13, but they had 2 kickoff return touchdowns. So it's not like the offense actually, put that lead together. It was more that kick return game, that awesome job by Naheem Hines. Can't really count on those week in and week out. Josh Allen did have 3 turnovers in that game too. That's been a problem with him managing an injury. So I'm not sure that the Bills are going to run through the Super Bowl and just look like the team they looked like last year before they hit that Kansas City juggernaut. I think that they could have some offensive trouble in this game too. Miami's defense, much maligned throughout the season, not played great, showed up in a big way against the Jets. I know it was Joe Flacco, but he had success early in the season too. He was able to throw downfield and maximize kind of their weapons, and they, he did nothing against Miami. So that was a good sign for them heading into the playoffs in a game they weren't sure they were even going to get to the playoffs, but they tried their all there. So we'll see how the injury report plays. We'll see who's active on the offensive line, like Larry's talking about. And Buffalo has the pass defense to slow down Miami's offense if they want to go pass heavy. But I think it's going to be more of a run game here. Dogs of 10 plus points in the wild card round are 2-9 against the spread all time. But those 2 wins were at home. So you take these teams on the road on these big double digit spreads, you have to expect the Bills are probably going to cover here.
And that would be a lot of fun to watch if you're a Bills fan. But Mikey, I don't know that I ever have remembered a game where literally nobody is giving a shot to the other team. And you like this as part of your parlay?
Yeah, I love this as part of my parlay. Obviously, I was very early on it on Tuesday. Have them at minus 430. I think they're well above 950, maybe 1,000, maybe 1,100 in most places. So certainly not going to grab a ton there, but I think it's a very difficult spot for the Dolphins, especially if the offensive line is not able to go in this one. Look, Skylar Thompson, he was good at times at Kansas State. He actually flashed a decent amount of upside in the preseason this year. None of that has translated so far. Obviously, a massive, massive difference between preseason games and what he's stepping into in the road environment here. I'm very interested to see if he takes off and runs with his legs at all in this game. So I'd like to speculate a little bit maybe on his rushing yards just through desperation and what they're going to see later in this game. And I do like RJ's angle of Gesicki. I think that not only looking at the yardage, but the reception total as well. I think it's quite low at 1.5 right now.
All right, very good. And that's on the Dolphin side of Maestro. Yeah, I'm coming to you, Maestro. Don't worry about it. I got you. A lot of the focus this week has been on Josh Allen and his props and on the unders. Do you think that's the game script today? The Bills just get in and then just try to get out?
Yeah, I think this has like 27-10 written all over it. And, Skylar Thompson should be running. He did have that aspect in college, and he needs to bring that back into his game because out of 46 quarterbacks, this is from Clev TA, he is, with 125 dropbacks this season, he is the 46th rated quarterback in terms of EPA and success rate and all the other metrics in terms of the passing game. So, I mean, you'd love to be contrarian and say this is the spot, but you look at the Seahawks, they get into the playoffs. That was a huge accomplishment. And then in the second half, they fold. And the Dolphins also a huge accomplishment, given all the injuries, to just make the playoffs. The year has been a success for Mike McDaniel, dealing with all the injuries to Tua. And again, I think maybe they keep it tight for a half or so. Ultimately, it's going to snowball.
All right, so should that be a way, RJ, that we attack this? Then, Mikey, I'll come to you with one more. Maybe perhaps a first half bet, which I believe is probably – I haven't looked lately, but probably around 7.5.
You think if the Dolphins are going to have any success, it's going to be in the first half when they're able to script out plays before the game gets out of hand. So, I think if you think the Dolphins are going to be any good at all, you would expect them to come out and play strong there. Buffalo may be trying to avoid the turnovers that could turn the game, over and shorten the game a little bit. So I don't know that I would play Buffalo in the first half. I think that they're probably going to come through with a better performance in the second half.
Right now it's at 8.5. Mikey, let me come to you. Do you think there'll be any angle that you can attack live in this game?
It's certainly possible. If there's a scenario where the Dolphins get the ball first potentially and score first, I think there will be some interesting opportunities there. I don't see many scenarios where they actually win the game. So it'll likely be taking, certain numbers through key numbers on the Buffalo side with a comeback there. If I were to bet on Miami, I don't mind the 14 if you think they can get in the back door there late. I think it's certainly possible. One thing I caution about typically is I always get questions about first quarters because we bet a ton of them in college football, but not in the NFL. This is one game where I would feel comfortable with a first quarter play, and it would be the Dolphins +3.5 or +4 in the first quarter. Just because we've seen Buffalo start slow at times, it's very possible that Miami gets the additional possession if they get the ball first to start the game. It's a lot easier to have a scripted drive out of the box than it is to adjust in game, especially with a quarterback with very little experience like Skylar Thompson. So if you wanted to attack the Dolphins, I don't mind playing them first quarter when you're getting more than a field goal.
Yeah, right now it's currently +3.5, +101 if you want to do that. Now, Maestro, let me come back to you because normally in the playoffs, because it's all about just winning and getting to the next round, we normally don't attack totals unless we're very, very confident about them. Yesterday, both games just soared past the over because of how the game was going. Would you see any scenario that you'd want to attack the total today?
The only way I could look is the under in this first game. And then the only way I could look in the next game is the over when you talk about the Giants and Vikings. But I'm staying away from totals. Totals are not my specialty, and I've learned that the hard way, so I just stay away.
Very true. Very true.
I think I would look, speaking on totals real quick, I would look more to the Dolphins under than I would to the team total because it's just hard to see Skylar Thompson having success in this offense. They might pick up some cheap yardage. But in the red zone, is he really going to get it done and score a touchdown? So if anything, I'm looking at the Dolphins team total under if you want to play a total.
14.5 is where it's at right now. That extra hook is big. Yeah, that's big. All right, 14.5 -113 if you want to attack it that way. So we gave you about 5 or 6 different ways that you can attack this game rather than just laying the 13.5. Now, game number 2 today, gentlemen, is the Giants getting 3 in Minnesota against the Vikings, a rematch from just a few weeks ago. The total sitting at 48, game time 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. We have several best bets as a brand. Excuse me. AB is on Greg Joseph to kick over 1.5 field goals. Also, Vikings second half team total over 12.5. He's been great. cashing these second half totals so far the last couple of weeks. Then Dave is on Graham Gano. Don't you know? Over 1.5 field goals today. C is on Richie James. Over 4.5 catches as well. Maestro, let's start with you because you love, and you gave it out earlier, but a lot of new people have come into the show. You like a prop in this game. And then kind of give me your overview on how you think the game is going to go.
I like a couple of props, and I was upset when Sia gave out the prop that I wanted to give out the most, and that's Richie James over 4.5 catches, because this guy 8 for 90 in the first matchup. The slot receiver, the Vikings, the second worst against slot receivers. They give up the second most catches, second most targets, second most yards. This is a former special teamer, but he's getting 7 targets a game down the stretch. So I absolutely love Richie James over 4.5. And on the other side, I like KJ Osborne just because the number's very reasonable in the mid-30s. When you talk about a guy who's number 7 in receiving yards over the last 5 weeks of the season, as Thielen starts to decline, Osborne is increasing. We all know Justin Jefferson and TJ Hockenson will get theirs, but this still is going to be a pass-heavy attack. I think it's going to be a great shootout again. I mean, Daniel Jones, not a good passing success rate this season against the Vikings, 334 yards, 8.0 yards per attempt. This is a bad pass defense that he's facing today.
Oh, and he is fired up. Now, reports are coming out of the Giants camp, RJ, that Saquon Barkley has told head coach Brian Daboll, give me the ball as much as you want today. You want your running back telling the head coach that, and you like that side of the game today as well.
Yeah, I think the Giants are going to cover here. I like them at +3. I like getting it before it moves. It looks like it might tip to 2.5 in places. So I wanted to lock it in there. They, like I said earlier, they played to a near draw, and the Giants easily could have won that game. They have the coaching advantage in this game. I love Saquon telling the coach that, but dude, it's the playoffs. Like he's gonna do whatever he thinks maximizes the chance to win. He's not gonna focus on feeding one guy the ball and making him happy. This isn't week 12. So I think that they're going to do what they need to do. I really like attacking the passing props. I love that Richie James play. He's really been the guy that emerges as the consistent number 1 option for the Giants. Slayton can hit some more bigger plays and sometimes get bigger yardage. Hodgins has done some great work over the middle too, but it's really James that's sticking out as the guy that gets target after target after target. So you figure he's going to have a good game against this bad defense. And then to Larry's KJ Osborne play, I liked playing a kind of a little correlated thing and taking the Thielen under as Osborne has emerged in the offense. Thielen has kind of gone away. You look at his stat lines, it's a lot of like 1 catch, 2 catches here and there. I don't think that he's a big part of the game. Even when they have to throw a ton, he hasn't been a big part of the game. That Colts game where they had to come back from a massive deficit, I think he got 4 catches, maybe 3 catches. He didn't get a ton of yardage in that game either. So he's kind of getting phased out of the game plan. And the way you want to attack the Giants defense is to run the ball. So I like taking Dalvin Cook's over as well if you want to look for another prop.
And his number is 71.5 minus 115. Mikey, let me come to you because you got Dalvin Cook on one side. Saquon, his number is 74.5 on the other side. Do you like anything on the ground today? I think we all agree that the defenses for both in the defensive backfield, not very good.
Yeah, no, I think the way that both teams want to attack here is through the air. So I'm not going to play either running back. I have a lean on Saquon's under, but he's such a fantastic athlete, much like Christian McCaffrey yesterday. There's certainly the scenario where you have a 50 to 60-yard run that really kind of kills any sort of unders there. But I don't think the volume is necessarily going to be there unless they have just an absolutely incredible start to this game. I think they're still looking neutral to trailing game script most of the way. So I'm going to be off of the running backs there. If I wanted to speculate at all on a running back, it would be Dalvin Cook in the passing game, potentially on a longest reception prop, not even necessarily over the yardage. I think he has one potentially big play in this game. So I like that angle of it. As far as the game itself, I haven't played anything pregame on it. I lean pretty heavily to the Minnesota side, actually. But I'm going to be looking to bet this in game. I think that there will be a scenario where we have a back and forth game where I'm able to grab a better number, potentially a +3 live. I think this game's coming down to a field goal either way.
Okay. Now there's one big name, Maestro, that everybody loves to bet on. And the last couple of weeks, they've been kind of getting hosed just a little bit because the number has been so high. There is a DraftKings boost that I'm saying, and I'm not a big fan of boosts. But Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase over 60 yards today. I don't know what the juice is on that, but do you like those numbers for at least Justin Jefferson?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's super low for Justin Jefferson, but
Yep.
Adoree Jackson coming back is significant. He's missed 7 straight games, and he was having the best year of his career. So this does change the Giants secondary. The Vikings didn't face him. They didn't face Ojulari, and Leonard Williams. Ojulari got hurt in that game. So 3 of their best defenders were not there. I'm not saying the Giants have a good defense, but they should be a little better than they showed in Week 16.
All right, very good. Now, let me come back to you, RJ, because when you look at the quarterbacks today, and if it's going to be a shootout, you'd have to believe some yards are going to be on the board. So for Daniel Jones, he's only at 240.5, but Kirk Cousins is over 270. It's at 272.5. Do you think either quarterback has a big day?
I think Daniel Jones should. I believe in that game a few weeks ago, he was in the 220s, and I played the over there, thinking that even though that he hadn't been, getting high yardage totals to that point, just the matchup predicated it, and they had a good enough coach to take advantage of that matchup. Brian Dable was going to scheme around the pass game in that matchup, and he did, and he got over 300 yards. So I think that 240 number is still too low for Daniel Jones. I would attack that. The Kirk Cousins, he's been throwing a ton. I think he had 133 attempts from week 15 to week 17, starting with that Colts comeback. So he could certainly get there if that's the game plan. Like I said earlier, I think Cook in the running game is more involved this week than they were in the last game. I think he had like 64 yards on only 12, 14 carries the first time. So if you focus on getting him a few more carries, he should be able to get there. So I'm not sure Kirk gets there, but it kind of depends on the game script. If Minnesota's playing from behind again like they were in that Colts game, he's definitely going to get there. So if you think this is a Giants game and you're playing the Giants money line, I do like the Kirk Cousins over too.
Okay, very, very good. Now, Mikey, let me come to you. Last question, because yesterday, as I already mentioned, we had 2 gigantic totals, and today this one's at 48. Do you think that is right where it needs to be, or would you attack the total in some particular way?
It's a scary one, but I lean to the under in this game. I'm definitely not playing it. The computer wants you to play it. Has the number 45.5. I'm not going to go there though. I think it still has massive shootout potential. Even if you want to play a first half under potentially, I don't mind that, but I'm not going to play it. It's not a situation I want to get into with these 2 offenses. I think that there's just so many big plays waiting to happen late in this game that I'm going to stay off of it, but the computer does want you to go under here.
Okay, very good. And the computer sometimes has a brain of its own, way smarter than us. No doubt about it. All right, let's show that recap screen one more time with all of our best bets for both games today. And again, a busy day at the brand, but we have a full slate. There's all of the plays that we gave out for the games today. And don't forget, tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have a Early Edge live show counting down to the Ravens and the Bengals. What are the Ravens going to do at quarterback? Who are they going to go to? What will Joe Burrow do in a rematch from just 7 days ago? Special Early Edge live tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Then, of course, tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time as well. It is the Cowboys and the Bucs. Will this be the last game for Tom Brady in a Bucs uniform in the NFL? We will discuss all of that tomorrow with me and the crew at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, on our NFL shows, I like to ask my guys, what's the number one most important thing they're looking forward to today? Gentlemen, out of these 2 games, I ask you that question. Maestro, start us off.
I think yesterday we saw the importance of coaching when you get into the playoffs, and you saw how calm Doug Peterson was, and you saw what Brandon Staley was doing. We're not really sure. And then you look at Brian Daboll, a guy who's won a lot of playoff games as an assistant. He's not afraid to take a chance. I just think it's a great scenario for him to show a lot of unexpected things, because obviously they're underdogs. They've already had a great season, and I just cannot wait to see what Brian Daboll has schemed up for today.
Mikey, talk to me.
Yeah, Larry took it right out of my mouth. It's identical to last night's game in terms of the coaching mismatch. It's huge in the NFC, potentially who wins that game. So other than that, I want to see the Bills and Bengals win. Obviously, I have a huge parlay on them. It's a very, very significant play. So I hope that those 2 teams take care of business.
And for those of you new to the brand, translation, he's got a lot of money bet on those games. All right, RJ, bring us home.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I'm most looking forward to is my Bills hopefully winning. But from a gambling perspective, I really want to see who wins this Vikings-Giants game. If it's the Giants, they go on to play the Eagles in the next round in a rematch of a game where the Eagles only won by 6 when the Giants didn't play any of their starters. If it's the Vikings win, they go on to play the 49ers, and anybody that has 49ers future tickets probably feels pretty good about that matchup. The 49ers getting to play the Vikings instead of the winner of the Cowboys and Buccaneers game. So really interested to see how this game, this Giants-Vikings game, which involves two teams that nobody thinks is going to go very far in the playoffs, really shapes the rest of the NFC postseason.
And I, too, am really anxious to see how the Bengals look today, because they are the team that last year went through on the road and got it done and went to the Super Bowl. And a lot of people think right now the Bengals are the best team in the AFC. But we'll find out today if it's going to be Bills-Bengals next week. Again, that game would be in Buffalo. If the Bills and Chiefs meet in the AFC Championship game, that would be in Atlanta now. The NFL announced this week. Great show this morning, gentlemen. Rest up, because we got a busy, busy day. There's only one thing left to do. And I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these tickets straight to the pay window. My entire crew, love them all. M Square, Maestro, the stoic one, RJ White. I am the coach. Turn on your notifications every time we start a show. We want you here from the jump. Knowledge is power, and it pays to watch live. We grind for you so we can win with you at the early edge. Good luck.